This is our project over John Nash and A Beautiful Mind by Sarah Nicholas, Whitney Seiler, Reagan, Squire, and Sophia Giraldo. John Nash is the main character of A Beautiful Mind. He attended Princeton University for graduate school and struggled during this time to fit in with the other students. They all came from different backgrounds than him. He was from the South while every other student was from a wealthy East Coast family. He is a very socially awkward man, and after leaving Princeton to take a position at MIT, he met Alicia, who he later ends up marrying and falling in love with.
John suffers from paranoid schizophrenia. He sees people and things that aren't there, but perceives them to be reality. He has trouble distinguishing these things from the real world, so these hallucinations cause him to experience situations that are not happening. The DSM-5 definition of schizophrenia categorizes it as meeting these criteria for a period of time 1 month or longer. These symptoms include delusions, hallucinations, disorganized speech, grossly disorganized or catatonic behavior, and problems with expressing emotions. Along with these, the symptoms must cause impairment in one of the major areas of the person's life. Some of the symptoms must be continuous for a period of at least 6 months. Other disorders like depression and bipolar disease must be ruled out. And if there are other mental disorders in the family history, it is even harder to diagnose schizophrenia.
In the movie, John Nash hallucinates Ed Harris, who Nash believes put a coding device into his arm. Later on, John tries to cut the device out of his arm in his holding cell. This example and John's lack of emotional expression towards his newborn son, along with additional hallucinations of other people, depict his disorder clearly. Some symptoms are not shown in every single person. Some negative symptoms that are missing include lack of social affiliation, lack of motivation or drive, and lack of diminished speech. The people in John Nash's life do not know of his disorder in the beginning of the movie, and he is still able to lead a somewhat normal life by interacting with others and becoming an award-winning mathematician. Later in the film, Nash is diagnosed with schizophrenia and is put into a mental institute. After leaving the facility, he is put on medication and helps cope with his symptoms. He still interacts with people, but not in a normal way. After his second visit to the facility, he is shown in the movie interacting with college students and later becomes a professor at Princeton. By becoming a professor, the film leaves out the symptom of not being interactive with people.
In the 2001 movie, John Nash was given electroconvulsive treatment, which uses electric shock sent throughout the body. The long-term goal for ECT is to let Nash have the most normal life without the symptoms. The ECT is less common now because it is found morally controversial. The best way to treat Nash today, in our opinion, is with psychosocial therapy and medication, because it doesn't affect anyone's morals. Psychosocial therapy would help Nash with social skills to integrate with the rest of society, and antipsychotic medication would affect the amount of serotonin and dopamine in Nash's system to help reduce the positive and negative symptoms of his disorder.
Typically, film and media portrayals of psychological disorders are very stereotypical, which makes the audience gain knowledge that is very misleading. However, this movie portrays a fairly accurate representation of how schizophrenia is in individuals. For example, in the movie, John's symptoms begin in his early 20s, which is the typical age when schizophrenic symptoms appear. Also, electroconvulsive therapy is portrayed very accurately in the movie, because it is shown as a very intense form of treatment. One misinterpretation that the movie portrayed is that John was able to carry on with a somewhat normal life after his therapies, which is very rare for people who suffer from schizophrenia.
The top right scene of the movie ultimately prompted Nash's schizophrenia by the sounds of the guns and the Russians following him. The top left picture depicts one of John Nash's hallucinations in the form of the man he made up to be his roommate in college, Charles. The bottom right picture depicts the people that John hallucinated, including Charles, his college roommate, Marcy, Charles's niece, and William Parcher, the apparent Department of Defense agent. The bottom left photo depicts the element of paranoia in John's schizophrenia when he looks to see if the Russians are going to catch him.